because now's the time. It's going to get intense. How do I turn this?
Switch across top.
Cool. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, that's just a warning. You've had long enough to read it. If you're still here, then it's your mistake. So. It's going to come as a bit of a surprise to you, as it did to me, that www actually stands for the Wild Wild Web. And I know you're probably thinking, that's just like buffoonery. But maybe just bear with me and, hear me out. I know you guys can read, but I'm going to read it for dramatic effect. So Wikipedia, aka truth, fact, says this about the Wild West. It's the story of the creation and defense of communities, the use of the land, the development of markets, and the formation of states. It is a tale of conquest, but also one of survival, persistence, and the merging of peoples and cultures. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Coincidence? Bear with me. So, in the Wild West, you've got gold rushes, and on the web, you've got them too. We always kind of have, and I think it's largely because there's always this pace of change of technologies, pace of change of what people are using the web on, pace of development. People are going crazy, like ship, and when we do, we launch early, we launch alpha, we launch beta, we're just constantly building these things and getting them out there. And I think because you're kind of not really limited by anything other than your imagination and what the tech can do or maybe do very soon. I don't know about you guys, but I always feel like there's opportunity. There's always something going on, there's something to be excited about. And so I think just the very nature of the web feels to me like a gold rush. And just looking at some of the stuff that's happened in the past, domain names. I mean, they were a massive gold rush when it was first possible to have all these domain names. People were like, Jesus Christ, I've got to buy this domain, I've got to buy that domain. Oh my God, they brought out a new domain extension. Now I can split my word over domains and people won't know how to find it. And it's like, people are like, I've got to get the domains. Then you've got all these domains, you don't know what to do with them. And then cyber squatters and all that hate and all the rest of it. And then you kind of get the same thing with usernames, like Twitter comes out and then these new web services come out. And people, often the campaign launch page for these new services are kind of like, reserve your username now. And everyone's like, I must get my name! And so that's a bit of a gold rush. And apps, bloody hell. Like, when someone coined the term apps, I think the web just went mental. It was like, you couldn't talk to anyone who wasn't in the web industry. Well, actually, it's the same in the web industry. But I talked to one of my mates, he'd be like, oh, so you're a web developer, aren't you? I've got this great idea for an app. And I'm like, get in line. I've got 10 of my own good ideas that I haven't launched. So. And then you've got acquisitions, which has kind of become a new kind of gold rush reserved for the big dogs, And so you've got, Google and Apple and all the rest of it, and they're like, oh, look, these guys are doing well. And that's, they just take, acquisitions and all this kind of like, oh yeah, they're going to push the technology forwards, but they're probably not, they're just going to deploy them and, your membership, it doesn't matter. So, kind of two examples I wanted to talk about is the App Store. I mean, when that came out, people went mental, and I meant to check this morning, but I didn't. It's just filled with apps. And Apple's kind of statement was, there's an app for that. And the amount of apps that are in there, I think there probably is an app for literally anything we could need to possibly do. And everyone was like, God, we've got to get in on that. We've got to build apps. We've got to get on the App Store. We'll be rich. All these success stories about apps that kind of like this random nobody company that kind of like make an app and then they make all their millions and draw something and all that stuff. But very much like the gold rush, for all those who go searching, very, very, very few actually find their goal. And I wanted to talk about Angry Birds real quick. one caveat is I tend to waffle, so I'm going to keep checking the time because I'll end up just talking. But Angry Birds is like a really great example of an awesome killer success story of the App Store. But many people don't realise, you may all know this, but I didn't. Rovio, the guys who made it, they'd made 50 games prior to Angry Birds. Have you heard of any of them? I haven't, so I guess they're not very successful. So they had to do that first. And then Angry Birds was actually their last-ditch effort. They'd run out of money. They were on the brink of bankruptcy. And the two guys in charge, they said, right, we need to just go all at this, all or nothing. And they made a make or break plan. And that's where Angry Birds came from. So everyone's like, wow, Angry Birds, success story, amazing. But they were desperate. That was like the last-ditch attempt. So that success story it was hard. And the next one I want to talk about is Kickstarter. That's become a bit of a gold rush at the moment. Because, people are like, you know what, now, I don't even need to do anything. I just need to come up with an idea, stick it in front of people, make a compelling video, and I might make $10 million. But the problem is that many people who do achieve their riches or do find their gold, it turns out not to be quite what they expected. And there's actually a couple of stories about Kickstarter projects where they've been victims of their own success. Does anyone heard of the Pebble, the watch? Raise your hand if you have. Yeah, well, for those who haven't, it's a little watch that connects to your Android or your iPhone or whatever, and kind of they make a sweet harmony and romance. And they kind of, I need to check my figures. They wanted people to pledge. I think it was $100,000. The screen isn't big enough. Yeah, $100,000. They actually raised $10.3 million, and they got 85,000 orders. Now, what happened to them is they went, amazing, we're rich, this is fantastic, this is like our dreams quadrupled by infinity. And then, after like the initial kind of, yes, we found our gold, reality struck hard in the face. They were only going to make 1,000 watches. They'd only planned to make 1,000 watches. They didn't have a business plan that was catered to $10 million. And you might think, well, with that amount of money, you can write a new plan. But it's really not that simple. All of a sudden, they've got to ship all of these watches to all of these people. They went from a staff of 3 to 10. They started outsourcing customer support. And the problem was really that Kickstarter hadn't put a lid on the success. And that just ran away with itself. But the problem was that Kickstarter actually was changing into, rather than a kind of a pledge reward system, where the reward would be you get a name on this, or we'll send you a poster or something like that, it turned into you get a product. It became an ordering system, a pre-ordering system. And that was the problem. Like, it's popular enough, people will want them, and then they've got to fulfill it. And Kickstarter never wanted that. So actually, Kickstarter are now redoing their terms and conditions, their terms of service, to say that if you want to present an idea, they're very strict on pre-orders now. It's just going to change because it can't. It's causing too many problems. And I'm sorry about the Pebble. There are plenty of other ones very similar to it. I think you guys might have heard of the Ouya. I don't know how it's pronounced. Ouya. It's this little open platform console, and they've made 8.3 million or something. And people are now going, are they going to have the same problem? Because the Pebble guys, they don't even know when they're going to ship. They're just like tomorrow. So yeah, gold rushes. I've talked way too long on that one, so I'm going to speed up a bit. We've got shootouts off the web as well. Everyone's got an opinion, especially now that so few people might have. That's why I'm here. Even now, like we've got Twitter and Facebook, social networks have meant that if you've got an opinion, it doesn't matter how ill-informed it is or how brilliant it is. Just say it. Say it to the world. Everyone will hear it, and it'll either be fantastic and you'll be heralded as a genius, or you'll probably be banned from Twitter because you'll get so many death threats. But basically, we've got shootouts. People are constantly dueling and debating, and often they kind of fall apart. You've kind of got a lot of ego, I think, and honour, like those guys in the Wild West, creeping into the way we're debating. And the reason I say it like that is because the way I can kind of perceive a debate or a discussion is something where you're trying to explore ideas and get to an end goal. But where I think kind of what's happening on the web is people are kind of going, never mind the end goal, I'm better than you. You know, it gets very emotional, it gets very personal. That's very natural because we are emotional things. But I think that, you know, that's why there's kind of this shootout mentality on the web, you know, where people start going, you, no, you, And I think it requires a bit of etiquette, perhaps, something to think about. Like, do we need to start conducting ourselves a bit more like how we would in person? If you behave in real life like you do on Twitter and you behave badly on Twitter, then I guess the problem is not going to go away. But, you know, I can't, every time I go on the web, I can't help thinking, why is everyone so damn angry? Like, or is it just me? Maybe I'm following the wrong people, I'm looking at the wrong websites. But like, you only need to go on YouTube, and it's like within 3 comments of a beautiful video about a kitten that finds its owner, and it's all lovely. And someone's like, God damn it, I hate you, I hate everything, and you, and just stereotypes and blasphemy and fascism. And I just don't get it. Are we all really angry? Like, I don't know. And I really love this quote, which was from Reason to Be Creative, which I think you tweeted, and I spotted that, from Mark Bolton, which is, Twitter is often like a verbal drive-by. I've never heard such a succinct truth in all my life. Like, spot on. Law and order. So, like the Wild West, law and order and lawlessness was kind of evolving. Because everyone was just doing their own thing, and some people were trying to be good, some people bad, people just taking advantage of the whole situation. And I think very similar things happening on the web. I don't know a lot about this topic, but I just feel like it's lagging behind. I think that's just obvious. You know, there are so many examples of what I want to call casual criminality. Just do a bit of criminal activity, you know, start tryouts and what I mean by that is, you know, youngsters. It's very natural for them to take a song and email it to their mate. But they have just potentially committed a criminal offence. And like, it's just so easy to do that. It's so easy to be like a criminal these days with the web. And I think there's a real problem with our laws. I think that they're evolving, but I think they're lagging behind. I think they're trying to catch up. And what we tend to have is lots of scapegoating. We get a lot of kind of excessive punishments and making examples of people because the laws doesn't really know what it's doing. And so it's like, people are like, we're outraged that this person that said this on Twitter must be put in jail. And so the media get hold of it and they're like, he must be put in jail. And then everyone's like, he must! And then he gets put in jail. And then everyone's like, what was his crime? What did he actually do? You know, I'm not saying that these people have done something that isn't punishable, by all means, but criminal? Like, I don't know, it's a bit loose, and I think it's lagging behind. Private. So I just talk about Facebook and like and how we have these online personalities and we're signed up to so many things, but I certainly don't know where my personality trail on the internet begins and ends. I really don't. I wouldn't even know how to. I think I'd probably just take a year sabbatical trying to tie up the loose ends of my personality strewn about the web. And that's quite a powerful thing, because the things we do and say that we would in normal life would say, and if we regretted it, we'd go, oh, I'll apologise to the right people, and eventually it'd be forgotten about. Now they persist, and that scares the crap out of me. I don't know about you guys, because I say a lot of stupid shit. But I keep doing it, so. Another thing is patents. Again, it's the laws of the big boys. Patents, in my innocence, I used to think were about protecting creativity, about helping someone who maybe doesn't have the legal clout to protect their idea against people who've got all the money to throw at it. Apparently that wasn't what it was for anyway, but that's another story. But John Tangerine said, the patent farce is a tragedy for creative humanity. And a bit like Mark Bottom's quote, it couldn't be more spot on. It is a farce, and who's it for? What's it doing? Like, it just doesn't make sense anymore. So, I think when Google acquired Motorola, they acquired 17,000 patents, and you can't help thinking that's probably why they bought them. Not, you know, just because patents are nuclear weapons, they're not defences anymore. You know. So law and order evolving, just like in the Wild West. Outlaws. I'm going to be fairly quick on this one. So there's something about the idea of a hacker that's quite romantic, quite, you know, like, ooh, you know, stick it to the man. But there seems to be, you know, there's this rise of the term hacktivism, and these kind of outlaws popping up around the web. And you know, a really good example is Anonymous. We constantly hear, who's heard of Anonymous? Who's like, yeah, Anonymous. No one wants to. But you know, they take down the FBI website, or they take down Amazon, or they take down one of the big boys. And I don't know about you guys, but there's some part of me that goes, because I think we live in a bit of in the West perhaps, we live in a bit of a disenfranchised society because, let's face it, you know, politicians and government, I don't know what they are, they're hideous, vile, and like, I don't know what they do or what their purpose is, but we've really fallen out of love, if we ever were in love, with the government. And I think that breeds a contempt. Maybe that's why we're so angry and hostile. And so when these guys pop up, you know, these Guy Fawkes style people, and they go, you know what, stick it to the man. We're kind of like, yeah, you do it, because I haven't got the balls to do it right now. But I'll join in. When it gets big, when it gets popular, when it's trending on Twitter, I'll be there. We've got a future for it. Let's do it. And you know, and we've got all these outlaws, you know, Napster and WikiLeaks and Assange and Kim.com. I'm not going to talk about these guys as people we go, oh yeah, Assange is a dude, because yeah, those two have kind of gone off the rails largely, or they never were on the rails. Like, I think, you know, what WikiLeaks and what they were trying to do before they went mental and changed their surname was still, the essence was good, and then, you know, power corrupts and all that. But my favourite, I think, is the Pirate Bay, which I don't use, obviously. And I've only heard about this anecdotally. But apparently on their website, it says the galaxy's most resilient torrent site. And it's such a bold but comedy statement. And you can't help but like them for being just like, bring it, you know? And they just seem invincible. Like, I feel like the guys who are in charge of it, when they were, you know, like talking with one another, I don't know how many there are, and I say guys, and probably girls as well, it's all of them. They probably said to each other, right, the manifesto is this: if any of us goes down, the rest of you keep it up at all costs. Always up. Doesn't matter if we're all in jail, Pirate Bay stays up. That's the goal. Because that will really, really piss everyone off. Well, the government, the people who want to control the web. It's all getting a bit conspiracy. And I think, you know, that's really awesome. Like, I personally think that's awesome. Like, you know, I may not agree with everything on piracy and stuff, but just because it's doing this was pretty amazing. And something that made me laugh, well, two things that made me laugh. One was, I don't really get the cloud. I don't, you know, people have been going on about it, and then a lot of people saying, well, a bit like social media, we've always had the cloud, and now people are going, oh, look, we've got the cloud. And then I'm like, what? The Pirate Bay are now cloud-based. I don't even know what that means. So, yeah, invisible cloud storage.
But they're actually cloud-based. They've got a link with a server on it.
Is that true? Yeah. Get that on Wikipedia, because that needs to be a fact. So, one thing I want to talk about, the Outlaws Pirate Bay, and they're a brilliant way of just, you know, becoming these like comedy scallywags almost, is, I don't know whether you guys remember in the news, it was pretty big, so you probably would, when the government or whoever said, right, ISPs, you now have to block Pirate Bay. And so Virgin blocked Pirate Bay, and everyone was like, good God. And then the media got hold of this, and they were like, ISP's ordered to ban the Pirate Bay. And Pirate Bay, so I'm told, posted a statement on their website that said, we'd like to thank the government and the media for a 12 million surge in traffic. I was just like, so has everyone heard of the Streisand effect? Like, you know, the opposite happening. And I was just like, God, the media and the government and the people in power just don't get it at all. But the kind of the illustration of the power of it was, my dad is loved to bits, genius. I call him Chairman Moff because he's wisdom, the oracle. But he's a Luddite when it comes to technology. Like, he has to have phones with huge buttons because his fingers are too fat, and he rings me from his pocket all the time, that kind of stuff. I went to help him out at his allotment the other week, and I was talking to him about, he said, how's business, how's the web, how's things go? And I'm like, I appreciate it because he's showing an interest in what I do, but it's. But then I said, blah 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 pirate, and he went, oh, the Pirate Bay! And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. My dad knows about the Pirate Bay, and I'm just like, these outlaws, they know how to get through, to cut through to the crap, and they're just on it. I think they're the ones who run the show. And so, kind of on a similar principle, you've got. wasn't expecting this. Enough of this. Jesus. I'm hoping I'm going to win an award for the ugliest slide ever. Well, that's what's going for now. So, there's a wilderness about the web. You know, we come up with our ideas for apps, services, and all the rest of it, and content. And what ends up happening is often something much bigger than Jesus Christ. Everyone's looking at me going. And so, I don't know much about high computing, but it's something that fascinates me from just reading books and stuff. But this mentality that you make a program, you come up with a script, and you kind of put them in and amongst each other, and they're aware of one another, but the kind of outcome at the end is bigger than the plan at the beginning. You know, the whole kind of hive and ant mentality. An ant, on its own, is probably fitter than me, but isn't very intelligent, doesn't really know what to do. But you put a whole bunch of ants together, and they build a beautiful structure that is, you know, just amazing, just mind-boggling. And something about the web is tapping into the hive mind of humanity in a way. A bit like Bohr, I guess. And so people make stuff happen. It wasn't necessarily what people planned. So when the guy sat down, Zuckerberg sat down and made Facebook, when the guy sat down and made Twitter, or any of these other ones, it often says, wouldn't it be cool if, or wouldn't it be great if I could do this, or wouldn't it be this, that, and the other? I don't think they really sit there and seriously, you know, go, but what about law? What if people were to say things on Twitter that could get them into trouble? And, you know, people don't think about that. They kind of go, what would be cool? What would be awesome? What would be wicked? And this is how viral occurs, and this is how, you know, mad things occur, because people just take what we have and they do something new with it, bigger, and that's what's really exciting about the wilderness of the web, I think. And, you know, memes and such like. And I'm going to skip over that because I can't talk. Except to say, I help you a quadricopter cat. Like, who's seen that? Everyone's seen that? Oh, God. I saw that and I just thought, oh, so thank you. But one of my favourite comments was someone put, of course, the hostility comes in. You desecrated the body of the cat. You've desecrated its soul. Blah, 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 blah. I hate you. Go and die. I'm all for peace and equality, but go and die. And someone replied and said, how do you know it wasn't in the cat's will that it wanted to? So, I had to talk about this. It's only one slide, so I'm going to make it brief. Does anyone know about my little misadventure into social media? Yeah. Can I see show of hands? Okay, so lots of new people to tell about it. So, in a nutshell, I saw a girl on a train, and I thought she was hot, and we talked a little bit, and I took it out of, you know, doing anything remotely useful about it by going, hey, you're in Bristol, or here's my number, let's go have a drink. I just went, the weather's shit. And I got in the car with my mates, he came to pick me up, and I was like, God damn it, I normally would do that. Like, I don't have much dignity, so I just, you know, I just say it, it's fine. Why didn't I do it? And I really kicked myself out. And he went, well, you know what they say, you're never more than, is it 6 people away from who you all know, or whatever the number is. I didn't care. I was like, light bulb. And so I think he was consoling me, but I was just like, yes, I will make a Facebook group and I will find her. A bit like these guys who make these apps. This is a cool idea. It can't possibly go wrong. And to make sure it can't go wrong, I'm going to put my face with a train ticket on, looking like a dick. And overnight, it went to 1,000 people. 90% I didn't know who they were. And I was like, what the? And a couple of weeks later, it blew to 8,000 and then 15,000 people. And everyone was just going bonkers. Like, New Age, the nice stuff. New Age romantic, this is amazing. What a lovely thing. And the other end, you're a freaking stalker, you need to go to jail, you know, all this kind of stuff. To kind of stuff that was indifferent, stuff where they'd be like, someone would post something and someone would go, oh, hi Sarah, oh, I didn't know you were on this group, and they're starting a conversation. And I'm just like, what is happening? Anyway, it got into the press. Like, I talked to one journalist, and like local Bristol newspaper, because they were like, oh, let's do this piece on your paper, and I was like, oh, amazing. What I didn't realise is if you do one story, all the rest of everything everywhere just take that story as if it's a and they add stuff and they just make stuff up. It was a really interesting insight into the way journalism works. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, I'm being quoted on the Pakistan news and in America, and then someone emailing me from Australia going, good work, mate. And I'm just like, and the best thing about it all is that's the picture they used. If you Google my name, that's all you see. So if I'm going to give any wisdom in my talk today, it's think about your face carefully before you do something really stupid. Anyway, I suddenly realised that it was starting to become a bit of a witch hunt. People were like, we must find her! I think I've seen her! I chased this woman! She hasn't got a blue headband on, but because I described it, she had this girl out there. I'll put one on there, it'll be fine. So I was like, stop, please, because this is really scaring me. And I said, look, if everyone in the group gave a bit of money to charity, we'd raise a whole lot, and it would be a nice outcome of an otherwise pretty embarrassing, self-indulgent misadventure. That only made it worse, because everyone was like, oh, he's such a nice guy. And I'm like, I was just trying to just save face, really. So I chose iamkeir because my sister works for them, and I set up a Just Giving page, and we raised £1,000. And I was just like, that's awesome. That makes me feel a little bit less like an asshole. And so, yeah, I kind of called off the search, but it got to a point where it wasn't really up to me anymore. And this is when things got really scary. It was quite an interesting insight into social media and viral stuff. Is that people, you know, there are companies who do viral media and such like, and they say we're experts, we'll get your thing to go viral, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think that's how it works. I think you put something out there, and I guess that's why it's called seeding, and then it takes. And then it's not yours anymore. It doesn't really belong to anyone necessarily. And that's really scary. And that, like, genuinely, away from all the fun and the jokes and the death threats, I was actually this is actually really scary. Facebook revoked my ability to send messages to the members. They revoked my ability to delete members en masse, and I couldn't close the group because it had members. And I calculated it would have taken me 3 weeks, 24 hours a day, to remove every member by hand, to then delete the group. So I didn't own it anymore. And it was there, and it was my face and my stuff, but I couldn't control it. I couldn't stop it as much as I wanted to. And just quickly, some of the mad stuff that was happening, people were doing fan artwork and flash mobs and stuff. We should do a flash mob. We should go to the train station and put blue headbands or tickets on our heads. But the best thing, actually, one of my mates was just dancing a minute ago. One morning, he bust into my room, and he was like, dude. And I'm like, no, what else? He was like, why are you on my news channel? This is Hong Kong. And I went, what? And he's like, you are on my fucking news channel, come in here. And I go into his room, and there's a news piece. And I don't understand a word of it except for Moffatt. So he goes, blah, 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 Moffatt, blah, 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 Moffatt. And then, I don't know whether this is a high point in my life or a really low point. I call it a high point because, otherwise, I need to keep myself happy in some way. But they had a CG reconstruction of what happened. And I wish I'd come and include the video. I'll tweet it later, but it is really funny. There's this guy on the train who doesn't look anything like me, and this girl walks past who doesn't look anything like what I described. And when she walks past, there's this noise. It goes, and these lights occur. And I was just like, does that happen when I see someone? And so there's this thing, they talk on the train, and then the best bit is she gets off the train, and he runs to the door, and they're shut, and he bangs on the doors. And I'm like, I don't remember doing that. I like drama. And what really blew my mind was, is that someone somewhere on the other side of the world created me, CG. Like, that blew my mind. Like, I don't know if the word humbling is right, but bizarre, I think, is probably right. Just to think that someone somewhere I've never met, probably never will, although maybe I should make that a mission, just did that. Anyway, I said I wouldn't talk too long. A mate of mine had a bright idea. And he said, okay, so you can't close the group, but what if you violated the terms of fair use policy? I was like, what possibly could you mean? And so he was like, I'll get me and my mates to sort it out. And next thing I know, someone on the group's messaged me, someone I don't know has gone, Keir, fucking tell what's happened. There's pornography all over your group. And I was like, this is terrible, we should report it to Facebook immediately. Sure enough, in less than 24 hours, I got the group went down, and Facebook sent me a kind of a slap on the wrist. And I was just like, thank you. But I think that's a very powerful point, that in order for me to get back control, I had to, well, my friends had to take really extreme measures. So that was a kind of a scary look into the kind of power of social media. Yeah, so there you go. You guys will know. It's my dirty secret. It's not a secret. It's all over Google. So anyway, I've been jabbering on about my metaphor of the Wild Wild Web, and hopefully I've now convinced you that that's what www stands for. But I guess I kind of want to summarise, conclude, make some sense of all this nonsense I've been talking. And it kind of boils down to these things. When I ask myself, what is the web? And what is the internet? I can't answer that question. Yes, I can say, well, the internet is connected to computers and the web is protocol. But if someone came, from the past or whatever, suddenly was in front of you and you had to explain the web to them in a sentence, how would you do that? I mean, I kind of like to talk to you guys afterwards and at lunch and stuff, because I'd be interested in people's opinions of that. Because I just don't really know what it is. I'm a web developer, I work in the web industry, I'm an expert in my field, but I kind of feel like it's quite insular. Like, I understand my context within the web, but I don't really understand the web as a whole. I'm not sure anyone does. If someone said to me, what is the web? I think I'd probably say it's a wildebeest with a general lack of respect for authority and made up of noughts and ones. Like, I don't know what it is. It's a massive experiment. Whatever. But one thing it definitely is, thank you, Tron, it's a digital frontier. It just is. I mean, in my life and beyond, it's just such a big deal. It's one of the greatest, one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to humanity, I think, for good and for bad. And there's a real element of that frontier, of the great unknown. It's like we know what we're doing in very small chunks, but I don't know how often we step away from our code, from our Photoshop designing and all the rest of it, and our ideas, and actually go, what are we doing? What are we actually doing? Are we making the world a better place? What are we doing? That's just a really powerful question. I'm not entirely sure. But I would like to call us, who work in the web industry, pioneers. That's quite a bold statement, but I'd like to call us that, because we are the architects and the idea makers and the creators. We're pushing it forwards, we're at the forefront. And I think that's really awesome. I'm really chuffed to be in this industry and amongst people like yourselves, because fucking hell, we're pioneers. That's incredible. We're changing the world. We have the power to do that at any time. And people are doing that. And I just think, just tell yourself that in the mirror one day, because I think it's a good way to look at yourself. It's boldly cold. Anyway. Also think of the web, I'm running out of time. Thinking of the web as an evolution, like we're not necessarily evolving in a natural way, you know, in the terms of evolutionary sense, but it's definitely changing the way we think, behave, and interact with one another, for good and for bad, and that's awesome. But just like the copyright law and stuff, I feel like our moral and ethical code is really lagging behind. It's something that really concerns me, and that's something I think about a lot, is that, you know, I know not to walk down the street and punch someone in the face, you know, as much as I may want to do that, because the law says you shouldn't do that. My mum told me that's probably not a good idea, and you know, generally that's the kind of the guide we have on how to behave in the real world. But we don't necessarily have such an easy way to interpret that into the online world, because our elders are a bit out of touch with the web. It's very, very much a kind of this generation problem. Our elders aren't totally in with the web, and so, you know, when I say to my dad, this thing's happened, I made a Facebook group, and now I'm an infamous stalker, he's like, well, son, shit. You know, so that you can't go to your elders. And then the youngsters, you know, they're faster at it than we are. You know, like, you know, these kids, they come out of the womb and then they're playing Angry Birds. And it's like, that's dumb. And it's like, so they kind of get ahead of us as well. So we're kind of in this real state of flux where I feel like the responsibilities we have to learn how to be human on the web is a real challenge for us, I think. And my last point is that, is it too fast? Is it all going too fast and we're constantly trying to keep up? And are we going to catch up, or are we always going to be kind of slightly vulnerable to technology? I don't know. But I'm not going to try and pronounce it because I'm not French. Actually, I am. Let's do it. Jusqu'ici tout va bien. Anyone speak French? How's that? Yeah? Is that right? You
Yeah,
do?
jusqu'ici tout va bien.
That's what I said. So, who's seen the film La Haine? Yeah, I know you have. Ironically called, translates to the hatred or something. But it means so far so good. And there's this anecdotal thing, I promise I'm going to finish that. And the anecdote is, did you hear about the guy who fell off a skyscraper? As he was falling down past the floors, he would say to himself, to reassure himself, so far so good, so far so good. And then the guy says, but it's not how you fall that matters, it's how you land. And I just, that is always in my head, because I'm like, we're doing this, but how are we going to land? Just something to get your cogs working. That'll do. I've talked long enough. Much obliged. All right.
I'm going to go back to the microphone. Unfortunately, there's no time for questions. If you need any breakdancing tips, Keir will be around at lunch. We're now going to hand over to Shane Tomlinson, and so if you just bear with us at one moment, and we'll get Shane set up.
Thank you very much.